Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Admiral Montgomery, you did a great job, I think, separating out all the issues, dealing with the migration issue as well. But you also touched on the ways that Russia is doing this. And we say Russia because Belarus wouldn't be doing anything without Putin's approval and is commanding of doing that. Now, you mentioned the fact that the hybrid warfare that's occurring also affects elections and disinformation surrounding that. So could you explain how sometimes these issues, whether it's the military being employed and lack of resources, whether it's disinformation, whether it's affecting elections, can you see how it blends together, for instance, how they use migration for more than one purpose, and specifically, how do you see them using it to affect elections?
I think that's a great point. I think, again, the Russians are very good at this campaign. The Soviets were excellent at it. I mean, they had half of Africa thinking AIDS was a CIA project from either Fort Detrick or a CIA lab. So we have to give them credit for this. And part of this campaign is that it's absolutely integrated and phased over time. So when do they put pressure on a country? When it's closest to its elections. So you drive migrants in, you conduct you wouldn't conduct a sabotage attack then, because that's clearly, you can't deny that. But you could do a cyber attack that shows that for some reason, the governing party can't maintain power. For some reason, the governing party can't maintain its borders. And then most recently, we've seen in elections the use of TikTok and other tools of the Chinese authoritarian state used by the Russians to manipulate elections. So it's about timing, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Benaluska-Bogdan, you were talking about the importance of not being reactive in posture, but the difficulty and the challenges they have in Europe are the fact that they're all sovereign countries trying to come up with common solutions. We look at our own country from state to state, and we see different, feelings from one state to the other, but it must be extremely difficult for one sovereign country with its own borders, trying to work with another, different laws and different impacts, where some of the countries like Latvia, Lithuania, or Poland are more effective. Now, I've seen Poland, amazingly, when I was there, absorb so many people and put them in the children in the school system and do an enormous job. Not every country has the resources or the ability to do that. So could you just talk to the difficulty that's there with so many sovereign countries all trying to work together on this migration issue, all with they can be in common groups like NATO, but they can also have their own separate sovereignty?
Thank you. I think that's exactly right. It has been one of the most immense challenges for the EU to create a common playbook for something as divisive as migration, where different countries are affected very differently. Some have the unlucky chances of geography. Others are magnets for onward migration because of their labor markets and need for workers. They have very different resources. And so what's been very important is, first of all, recognizing that the biggest challenge to this bloc is instability. And instability in one country creates instability for all, as well as for its allies. And so this has been the inspiration behind trying to stitch all of these disparate voices with competing priorities and goals into one collective union with possibility for collective standards and norms and procedures. And so we want to get to the point where 10,000 people arriving at a border at the behest of a hostile state, working in tandem with bad actors, who are non-state actors, et cetera, yes, is a crisis that we have to confront, but it's not a destabilizing one. And that's the whole impetus behind the EU Pact on Migration and Asylum. It is to create a set of rules so that when these things happen, we are not reinventing the wheel on the spot and then doing it differently in ways that go against other interests that we have and create all sorts of chaos.
I yield back.
I now recognize the representative from South Carolina, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you very much.